Hey everyone, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And we want to welcome you to our podcast. Say hello to my little film.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some of your best peanut brittle. This will be a darn good transmittal. And say hello to my little film.
All right, everyone, we are back with a brand new episode of Say Hello to My Little Film, where Ray and I take turns recommending movies that we love to the other that we know the other has not seen, and seeing if the other feels the same way as we do.
Yes, we call it our fresh perspective on a retrospective review. And I got a new movie for you, Rob, you've never seen before.
Well, that's kind of the rules of the game.
Yeah,
so
I mean, it'd be a horrible episode if I didn't do that, but I did do it. And, for this episode, I want you to think about great combinations. Kind of like, we have movies and movie reviews and podcasting.
There
That's
you
a
go.
great little
That's a
combo
good
that
one.
we're
Yep.
jumping into. And so, but I want you to focus on peanut butter. So, like, when I say peanut butter, you think,
Ladies.
I like peanut butter and ladies.
I like peanut butter and ladies.
No. Yes, but no. But what else? What else do you think of when you think of peanut butter, Rob?
Chocolate.
Reese's, but no, this movie's not about Reese's.
No, it's not about okay. Peanut butter and squid.
Really?
No,
that
God
a
no. That
thing?
sounds awful. I don't even know why I said that. That's
Oh,
just
I
jelly.
mean-
Jelly.
you don't got it. No, we're not doing peanut butter and jelly. We're not even doing peanut butter and celery. We're not. This isn't an
Peanut
ants
butter
on the
and
log
ladies?
movie.
We're not doing peanut butter and ladies
No,
though.
no.
You just got my hopes up for nothing.
You got your own hopes up. You're the one that said lady.
Damn it, Ray. Well, fine. Well, if you've got my hopes up, now I just got to pull the Band-Aid off. So you got to tell me, what do you got?
What do you got? What do you got? What do you got?
All right, Rob. But what I got for you is the combination you didn't know you needed. It's peanut butter falcon.
Peanut butter and falcon. Who eats peanut butter and falcon?
You'll see.
You gave me crap
no.
over peanut butter and squid. You come back with falcon.
You will see.
Yeah,
Peanut
well,
butter falcon.
I never even
actually.
heard of this movie. I don't
Yeah,
think.
2019. It stars Shia LaBeouf, Dakota Johnson.
Shia LaBeouf.
and Zack Gottsagen. That could be pronounced right. That could be pronounced wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, it's a really great like buddy like those like cross country moving across America type movies.
Road trip movie.
Yeah, like a buddy road trip movie. Thank you, Rob. Yeah, it's a great little
I'm
buddy
the one
road
who knows
trip movie.
movies around here. Don't let Ray fool
Shia
you.
LaBeouf and
LaBeouf.
Zack Gottsagen are the buddies who are doing the road tripping.
Okay, and eating a lot of peanut butter and falcon.
I'm not going to spoil
It's through
it.
the desert.
I'm
so
not
they're
going to
getting
spoil
eaten a lot
this
of
on this
falcon.
part of the movie.
Okay.
But yeah, so Zach is a man with Down syndrome who runs away from like a nursing home type facility that he was
Sure.
living in.
Okay.
It was like it's an elderly home. He doesn't want to be there with all these old smelly people, and he wants to pursue his dreams of becoming a professional wrestler.
Well, I like
Oh
professional
yeah,
wrestling. You know
yeah,
that.
it's going to be
so,
super
okay.
fun. There's some fun little cameos from some professional
Oh,
wrestlers in this.
Okay,
movie,
well
so
that
that'll
sounds
get you
fun.
on board.
Definitely.
But yeah, so while on the run, he kind of meets Shia LaBeouf's character, and he's an outlaw of sorts, and they kind of like are this unlikely pairing who start traversing through East Coast together a little bit.
Okay.
Like I don't remember if the movie takes place in South Carolina. I'll have to re-see that. I don't remember where the movie takes place, to be honest with you. But yeah, it's really really fun. It's got a lot of heart. So I think it'll it's one of those movies where you fall in love with the characters, and that's
Mhm.
kind of my thing.
Okay.
Character driven story. It's one little fun tidbit. I love tidbits.
I know you love your tidbits.
But this movie actually was made because the directors are Tyler Nilson and Michael Schwartz. They met Zach, Zack Gottsagen, who's the main lead, the actor with Down syndrome. They met him at a camp for disabled and non-disabled people. He told them he wanted to be a movie star. He had a lot of charisma, so they literally wrote this movie for him based off that interaction.
Wow.
Yeah,
It's
So-
heart of gold, if you
Yeah.
ask me.
yeah, and he's great in this movie. Like,
Okay.
he crushes it. So
Well, they saw talent and they knew it and they had to go for it.
Exactly. And so that's what I'm presenting you with. I'm presenting you with a movie full of talent, and you have to go for it.
All right, well, we're going to do that. We're going to do that right now, see if this kid can knock it out of the park for me. This is the part of the podcast where we ask you to pause the podcast if you had not seen this movie, and by all means, join us in our viewing of Peanut Butter Falcon, and then come back and see if Ray can convince me that peanut butter and Falcon actually go together as a combination.
Ray and Rob are currently watching the film. You may be also watching the film. If you're not, then you're listening to me say that Ray and Rob are watching the film. They'll be right back when they're done watching the film.
Peanut butter falcon, peanut butter falcon, peanut butter falcon, and a baseball bat.
Couldn't help yourself.
How can you help yourself not
There's so
sing
much
that?
peanut butter in this movie.
I
So
love-
much peanut butter. 50 Shades of Peanut Butter. I didn't know we were watching 50 Shades of Peanut Butter.
Low hanging. That's low hanging peanut butter.
Yeah.
Yeah,
You know, I mean, it was smeared everywhere.
it was literally too much. I mean, like, and he's in the sand.
Yeah.
Like, that's gonna get in the sand.
It's true.
That's
Sandy
not gonna.
peanut butter.
Yeah, it's gonna be bad. But speaking of bad, though, usually one thing I do like about this movie, start controversy right off the way. Is
Oh, boy.
I'm usually
Hot
not
take.
a Dakota Johnson. Speaking of 50
Ooh,
Shades,
hot
I'm
take.
not a Dakota Johnson fan at all. Usually, I really kind of find her to be unappealing, like as an actor.
Uh-huh.
Like, I just don't like her
Uh-huh.
minimalisty tone. Or just tone of her performance has not been for me. But I can tolerate her in this. I like her in this. What
Well-
do you think? Are you a Dakotaite?
I have no ill will towards her. I've seen her in multiple movies that I've liked
You-
her in.
haven't
the
seen
remake of
Madam Web.
Suspiria. I have not seen Madam Web, but you cannot blame Madam Web on Dakota Johnson. I can almost guarantee that without even having seen it. I can guarantee you cannot blame Madam Web on Dakota Johnson.
Not going to argue that. But she doesn't help. She doesn't help.
But I've seen multiple movies with her, which I thought she was good in. She was in the remake of Suspiria, which I thought was good. Bad Times at the El Royale. Let's see, what else has she been in that I thought she was good in? She was in The Social Network way long ago.
Was she? I don't
She
remember
was.
that.
I know. Yeah. But yeah, she did kind of get wrangled into the 50 Shades of gray. I don't even know how many movies there were. I feel like there were too many. So yeah,
50. I think there was 50.
there, that makes sense. But that's you take the roles you're given.
Yeah.
Sometimes you can get, and you can't fault her for finding success.
Yeah, but she's fine in this.
She's definitely fine in this. I thought she was great in this.
Yeah, she's got this, just enough of an arc where she's willing to, kind of start her life over and kind of, not sell out, basically not sell Zach out to her, to her boss, as because she's on the lookout for Zach, who's the runaway.
Right.
And as soon as
She's in a tough spot.
yes,
she's in
if
a
she
tough
returns
spot.
him, she's gonna, she finds out later in the movie he's gonna have to go to this facility that's gonna be way too intense for him.
Right.
She's not gonna subject him to that, so she makes the right choice in the end, and she doesn't do it. So.
I mean, while we're on the topic of Zach, it's so weird to me that he's even in this situation where he's like living in an old folks' home. I did not realize that was like a thing.
I mean, it's government funding, so
Yeah, I mean,
who
I guess they
knows?
just, like you said, they just needed a place for him, so that's where he ended up. I mean, I guess
Yeah,
I guess that can happen.
Yeah, it's an assisted living. I don't necessarily know if it has to just always be old people. I guess.
I thought there's
but
usually like a age minimum for those kinds of facilities, but
for
maybe
some
not.
private ones,
Yeah.
probably for
Yeah,
sure.
but maybe not.
Yeah.
But obviously he at least in some ways
And
lucked
that's what
out
Zach
because-
feels too. He's
Right.
like, "Why am I here?"
Right. Well, but he lucked out because he gets to room with Bruce Dern, who
Yeah.
is a treasure.
Carl's
Just like his daughter.
old.
Just like his
I'm
daughter.
not. Yeah.
He is a treasure.
Yes. He's only in the movie for about 5 minutes, but
Great
he
5. What a 5 minutes though.
he does a lot. He tells us he lets us know how much Zach loves the Saltwater Redneck,
Right.
his favorite
Wrestler.
wrestler, and then he helps him escape.
Yep.
And then he covers up for his mistake.
Yeah. I mean, it's a
So-
great idea. Bending the bars, lathering them up with the grease. He was an engineer once, if you didn't know. He knew that if
Yeah,
you grease
obviously.
something up, it could slide through things easier.
You have to. It's 4 years of college right there.
Right? But I mean, it's a good setup, though. I mean, it puts him in it puts Zach in a situation that you feel for him immediately. It's a great that kind of opening scene where he escapes. He uses his elderly lady friend
Pudding.
with
His
the
love of pudding.
to be able to try to make a mad dash. So clearly he'd been doing this a bunch. Coming up with these escape plans, and but finally one works.
He gets out.
And he gets out and he meets the another man on the run. Tyler, Shia LaBeouf.
Shia LaBeouf.
So
I love Shia LaBeouf in this movie.
He just didn't want to get caught and have to go back to digging holes.
I love Holes. I was going to say this is my second favorite Shia LaBeouf movie because Holes is definitely number one. But yeah, that's Tyler's backstory, I guess. But yeah, Tyler. They end up being these two bandits because Tyler he's kind of got this it's kind of this little complicated backstory that they can do really quickly, which I appreciate because the bad guys of this movie, Duncan and Rat Boy,
right,
basically have his brother's fishing license.
Mm-hmm.
His brother passed.
Yep. There's only so many fishing licenses in the county, and they get one or get his that his brother had.
Right. So he really can't fish anymore because he doesn't have his own brother's. He didn't get it inherited to him, so he doesn't have a job, and then just what do you do when you become desperate?
Right.
So
stealing pots.
Yeah. Stealing crab, and then he ends up lighting them all on fire and getting himself in a whole bunch of trouble.
Yeah. And
as he runs away, that's how him and Zach meet.
Yeah.
Because Zach is kind of hiding out in his boat by happenstance.
In his tidy whiteys.
Yes.
I mean, tidy whiteys really are the worst.
Yeah.
You cannot look cool in tidy whiteys.
How are those a thing for so long?
I don't know.
But
you cannot look cool in tidy whiteys. Not that
No.
Zach does his best, but he does it just as well as anybody else.
It's like
could.
a flimsy diaper. I mean, it's
Right.
like how do we not progress past diaper in 200 years of evolution?
Right. Exactly.
But speaking of Shia LaBeouf, Tyler's brother, played by John Berthnall,
the most typecast man ever, dead brother.
If you need a
John
dead
Bernthal.
brother in Hollywood, you call John Berthnall.
John Bernthal will play your dead brother.
Yeah, he's
big or small, doesn't matter. He'll be in one scene.
Works.
He can be in 5 scenes. It doesn't matter.
When
dead
he
brother,
when
John
he looks
Bernthal's
at the camera
there.
and smiles, you just see a tough brother who loves you to death.
He really does.
And it's like, my God, I want him for my brother.
Right.
I want him to be my dead brother.
Yeah, it's so weird, but it's funny you put it that way because it totally works. As soon as you see John Berthnall as your brother, you're like, oh man,
I know
you had a great relationship.
I can't believe you've had to deal with that loss. I feel so sorry for you. Yeah, if you haven't seen,
it's just the bear.
if you haven't seen The Bear, then that's the other show that John Berthnall is dead in. But he does have speaking lines in that show through flashback.
Yeah,
not in this movie.
Not
Literally, is in just like 3 or 4.
Yep.
Not even scenes, they're just like shots. And it's like, that's John Berthnall. And he's a great brother.
Yeah.
And Tyler misses him.
Right. Which is, obviously why. At first, he's hesitant to take Zach. One, because you find out later that obviously Tyler was responsible. He feels he's responsible for his brother's death. So he doesn't allow himself, I'm sure, to get, close to Zach off the bat. Because, again, there's that inner fear of losing someone. But then he finally decides, I am going to somewhat befriend this poor guy and take him on the journey to the wrestling school where Zach wants to learn to kick ass.
That is Zach's passion, is to become a professional wrestler. Like we said, he watches the Saltwater Redneck videos all the time, and it's kind of funny, the scene where Tyler meets Eleanor, which is Dakota Johnson's character. Yeah. That's the scene that kind of binds Tyler and Zach, because once Tyler finds out that Zach's on the run too, he's like, oh, now I get where you're at. We're bandits together. Like, I see this working.
Right.
But I also really like that scene because I just feel like I really like how Shia LaBeouf plays Tyler. I don't know exactly how to put it in words what his performance captures for me, but it's like, it's just like, it's endearing, but it's cocky, but it's very wholesome. I don't know.
Well, I especially think through their interactions, with his interactions with Zach. Even the first one where he feels like more standoffish and maybe almost, he never feels like he's ridiculing him.
No,
I think that's kind of a big element of it. So when you have a character who has Down syndrome, you obviously feel for that character right off the bat, as you would any person, in that situation. And for Zach to treat him even though it is, at arm's length, still as a person,
Yeah.
you know what I'm saying? Like it's not he's not ridiculing him in any way or
No.
doing anything like that. So
And yeah,
you can tell that Tyler has pure intentions, even if it's like I said, kind of aloof.
Yeah, well, he's on the run. Like Tyler's like he's being chased and people want to kill him, so he's not trying to make friends and go on a road trip at this point in time.
Right.
He's got to look out for number one and not get killed. But like I said, when he finds out that Zach is also on the run, he's like, okay, we can do this. We'll give it another shot. I'll give this friendship another shot.
I'll give this friendship another shot. You think he would have done that when he punched out a kid, which I feel like that just came out of nowhere.
Well, guess what? When you use the R word, that's gonna happen.
Right. I mean, and
The
that's
kid
fair. And he pushed
deserved
him off and pushed him into the water when he
and
knew
Zach
he couldn't
can't swim.
Right.
Yeah.
So that was just like
I
so
love
out of
that.
nowhere. Tyler just comes up and punches this little kid in the face.
Yeah.
and
He's like, I
jumps
told
down.
you he can't swim.
He
They
can't
turns
swim.
and just decks the kid, which is
Yeah.
That's when you start to get you start to get on the Tyler train. But
Yeah.
they go on this road trip, this river beach
River
trip.
Beach
And
Road.
it's just, it's one of those, it's the classic kind of like road trip buddy movie where you're going to see their relationship progress. And there's, I think they do a really good job. There's just something, because obviously, Zach being someone who has Down syndrome, there's this wholeness and this honesty to everything he says.
Definitely, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And then giving Tyler the chance to respond to that or like anticipate it. It's just like, there's just a lot of moments where it's just like it's really feel goody.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
well, absolutely, and they use really good building blocks to put their relationship together. So the secret handshake, is one thing. You put that in. It's a device that is used throughout the rest of the movie.
Yep.
And something that you can clearly see binds them together. I think the rules are really funny. I
got a funny story about that. So keep going.
Okay, there's like rule number one. Don't hold me back, whatever.
Yeah,
No,
don't slow me down.
Don't slow me down. Right, don't slow me down. Like rule number two, you'll always
he's
listen
in
to
charge.
me. Right, he's in charge. But rule number one is actually party.
Yeah.
So
and that was an improvised line by Zach. In real life.
That's awesome.
The Zach is the character of Zach is played by his real name is Zach too. So, but he improvised that line. I don't know if he forgot, or just whatever, or just changed it on a whim.
Right.
He just said because when Tyler goes back and says, "What's rule number one? Tell me rule number one." He's like, pause. Party,
not party,
but
not
rule number one
party.
becomes party.
It does. Rule number one does become party when you have an entire jug of moonshine.
Yes,
which is just again another kind of like funny little visual plot thing because he's always after he gets it in that one scene of the general story he's constantly carrying this jug of moonshine.
Yeah, absolutely is. But yeah, and they get to party. So, but that line was improvised by Zach, which is brilliant. And then there's just, I love the scene of them crossing the water and having to save Zach from getting hit by the boat.
Absolutely. Well, and this is, and it's kind of going back to what we were saying earlier, about Tyler treating Zach like a human. He sees him for who he is, and he treats him as if he doesn't need anybody's help. You know what I mean? Like
he doesn't coddle him.
Right. He doesn't coddle him. Exactly. Like you can do this. Like you can do it. And he knows he can do it. But like, it's just it's so funny because they build the little floaties or whatever. And he's going to pull him across the water, and Zach asks him like, "Am I going to die?" And Shia LaBeouf's response is just so good. It's like, "Yeah, you're going to die. It's only a matter of time." That's the wrong question. The question is, are you going to have some good shit to say when you're gone? Don't be a bitch. Come on. Like it's just like I wrote the whole line down because it was just so good because it was so honest. You know what I mean? Like if it's in a situation like that, you'd be like, "No, like it's going to be fine." And it's like, no, yeah, you're totally going to die, but that's not what we should be saying. Right. You know what I mean?
Not today.
Right.
Hopefully.
And then like when they get across, like that is the greatest story to tell.
Yeah.
And it's so good. It like added to that whole scene.
Yeah. And maybe that's what I was missing with Tyler. Is just that there's this blunt honesty, like that says not where you have those characters that are always honest and they just tell you like the worst thing possible, but he tells you straight, but in a positive way almost.
Right. Like a brother.
Yeah.
I mean, let's be honest. It's what it is.
Yeah.
This is really a story. This is a story of Zach becoming Tyler's brother.
Right.
Like they're really, in all honesty, that's what it is.
Absolutely. Well, I got to talk about, not trying to talk about the movie scene for scene, but there's so many little scenes. I just think they do such a good job of it. But, I actually think, I guess the next scene might be that little party scene because my favorite scene of the movie is like when they're laying out on the beach. I think they've had their drinks at this point, but they're talking about being a wrestler.
Mhm.
Zach's talking about being a wrestler, and basically Zach kind of admits to Tyler that he'd have to be a heel or a bad guy in wrestling. Essentially, his point of view is, because his family left him and because people call him like the R word or maybe just don't really like him, that he's a heel. And
Right.
Tyler's not having any of that.
Right, yeah. He's not going to allow him to typecast himself
Yeah.
in that way, that he's pigeonhole him, that he's just because he has Down syndrome, that means he has to be a heel for whatever,
Yeah.
what bad
Just
guy.
because his family
But-
left him, that's on
right.
them.
Well,
That's
and
not on you.
Well, and not only just that, but man, PE coaches are the worst. You know, it's just like my coach kept telling me like I'm a bad guy because f your coach.
Yeah,
like, 'cause
exactly.
it's like, I mean,
Tyler-
like
yeah,
you're a good guy.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. He said, you got heart. You can see that in Zach from a mile away,
Yeah.
how much heart he has. He's definitely a good guy.
Yeah.
But then Zach looks at Tyler and says, Are you a good guy?
Right.
And just kind of using that this little conversation to kind of get to know Tyler better too. And Tyler's kind of like, What do you think? And I don't know if Tyler knows the answer.
Right.
You
You
know?
just say you are a good guy. He's like, you are.
Yeah,
a
no,
good
yeah.
guy. Yeah.
Tyler says, What do you think? Then Zach says,
Right. You are.
But no,
a
I'm
good
saying,
guy.
I don't know if Tyler
Oh,
knew
I'm sorry. Okay, I misunderstood.
I don't
Yeah,
know
Zach,
if Tyler
yeah.
knew the answer.
No, I don't think
you
he
know?
does. I think you're completely right. Well, because again, he's carrying around that ghost of his brother.
Yeah.
And his actions that he believes led to his brother's death.
Yep.
So yeah, I mean that's obviously in that regard, that's Tyler's crux through this whole movie is the ghost of his brother. So in that scene for sure, it comes through.
Yeah.
But and then there's a really great training sequence.
Yeah.
When they find like, okay, well, I'm going to train you, and like with the gun and all, like he
Yeah,
like blows
just-
the blowback.
He's
of
like, I
the
can't
gun.
teach you to be a wrestler, but I can make you a little tougher in life and get you some
Right.
experiences and just really wholesome.
Yeah, like, will you train me? I want to be a hero. Like it's just again, the Zach's lines he just delivers them in spades.
He does a really good job, kind of just getting some of those points across. And kind of one of these things that is kind of a thing with Zach is like basically the nicest thing he can tell somebody, in his opinion, is that he'd want you to go to his birthday party.
Right.
That you're invited to his
Right, the
birthday. And then
birthday
in
party.
turn, the meanest thing he can tell you is that you can't go to his
Yeah,
birthday
right.
party. But remember after like they end up having to get baptized,
Right,
because
which
of
is
this,
so funny.
this other stranger they kind
You
of
boys
run
black
into.
or white?
And then they end up they were trying to steal a boat, so they end up getting a boat, getting the
They
opportunity
build,
to make a boat.
they build the raft.
opportunity
It's
to
very
make a boat.
Huckleberry Finn. Like this is where the movie
Yes,
fully
little
becomes Huckleberry
Mark
Finn.
Twain, yeah.
Yeah.
And they're going down but then they're going down this river together, and they're kind of like, they
Oh,
got
yeah.
shot at, and they
Yeah.
kind of had this near death experience, and then Zach kind of puts his arm around Tyler, and he's like, Tyler, you can get all
I'm
my
gonna
birthday
give you
wishes.
all my wishes for my birthday.
And it breaks Tyler down.
Oh
He
my
starts
god,
crying.
he starts crying so
and
hard.
they kind of do a little cut scene of John Berthnall's brother putting his arm around him, like Tyler has it. I'm like, oh wow. Again, this is another scene where they just nail like the heart. There's so much heart in this scene. It's in spades. And it's like it's not always easy to do that,
Right.
in a movie and successfully do that, and without just being corny and something. But like, no, this works. This is just really works for me.
Yeah. Well, now that they're like fully solidified as friends, as brothers, now it's time for Zach to pick his wrestling persona.
Yeah.
So, and now rule number one is what? Party. So
Party.
this is when they get like drunk on
Yeah.
the beach or whatever, but then the Peanut
yeah.
Butter Falcon is born, and they make him like the whole costume
Yeah.
and everything.
They were trying to just go with Falcon, and then
yeah.
they got into the peanut butter, and then
Mhm.
peanut butter got smeared, like you said, or like we mentioned. We end up getting surprised with really
So
sandy
much-
peanut butter.
So
but
much sandy peanut
yeah,
butter.
that's how we get the title of the film. It's just rewarding when you see where the title of the film really comes from,
Sure.
and it's that scene right there.
Sure.
Of course, that's horrible timing because that morning, Eleanor
Right.
somehow finds them. They've been walking the
I
beaches
know, like it's just like,
miles and miles, and she just happens to drive by. I'm like,
here we
how?
go. How?
How?
Right. Like
How?
right here. This is where it is. Right here. It's like he's wearing a one of those beeper devices
Yeah.
or whatever that she can find him on. But yeah, finds him on the beach and he's drunk. Which
Yeah,
is
or
like,
hungover. It's the next
hungover and
day.
drunk, yeah.
She sees that he's with Tyler, and she's like, "You said you never saw him," and he just kind of brushes it off and like
Right.
just tries to go into flirt mode and stuff. But
Yeah.
because of Zach, because Zach throws her keys in the ocean, they end up this twosome becomes a threesome,
Right.
and they're going to continue the trek to find Saltwater Redneck together.
Yeah. This is one of my favorite scenes of the movie, though, is when they're on the water and
Yeah.
Tyler has Zach like hold his breath. and that's like where they're like kind
Yeah.
of confronting each other. Tyler and Eleanor kind of confront each
Yeah,
other.
because
a bit.
like you were mentioning, like Tyler treats Zach like an adult,
right,
where Eleanor, just because of her nature, she doesn't mean anything by it, but she
Right.
treats him like a kid, like
your blood
a
sugar, you got low
like
blood sugar, some
yeah.
candy.
here's have an apple, or get out. You're staying too close to the edge. You're gonna fall.
Right.
You know, like just everything just focusing on what he can't do.
Right.
Where Tyler always focuses on what he can do.
Right.
But then, yeah, like you said, he makes him. They make him duck his head underwater so they can shut up. You're
right.
You know.
But I think it's it's interesting in that scene how I think Tyler was kind of able to break down how it isn't just calling somebody the R word.
Right.
It's also how you treat them. So
That's what
he
it
says like
means.
don't call him the R word. Or
And she's
whatever.
of course
I would never
yeah.
ever call anybody that. And like when you treat him like that.
Yeah.
Like and that's
when
kind
you
of
say I think Tyler's argument is when you say that you're saying what he can't do.
Right.
And so right now when you're talking, you're telling him everything he can't do. So you might as well be calling him that.
Right.
You're making him think less of himself.
Exactly. And I thought it's an interesting way to look at it. You know
Yeah.
what I mean? Like I don't know if I've ever really seen that kind of articulated in such a way.
Yeah.
Especially on film, that I thought that was a very moving part of the movie.
Yeah. But then, of course, like just managing tone perfectly, like since Zach's holding his head underwater, as he comes out of water the second time, he's got a huge
fish. You can catch that with your hands
or your teeth,
or your teeth, right?
Go with his hands.
Definitely with his hands.
Yeah, so he got food, and then they're it kind of breaks down the walls, and they
have a good day.
They have a really good day.
But it doesn't last because Rat Boy and Duncan,
everybody can
John
find
Hawks.
Yeah.
Right. No, this is magic. How they get for somebody on the run, they can be found pretty easily.
Yeah, they're not doing that good at avoiding people, which I thought they'd be doing great at. Like they're in the backwoods, they're floating down the rivers.
They're kind of on the Outer Banks, so it's like it's not a very wide stretch of land, and it's one road.
Right.
Like he even said, like it's one road.
Right.
So as they're going down to Aden, where this wrestling school is, like it is only one direction.
Yeah.
And it's not a very wide area of land.
Yeah.
So I guess
not the best place to hide.
Right,
then, I guess
it's not entirely improbable, but so. But it's a good scene too because it allows Zach to kind of fully find that confidence, with calling back to the
trying to kill somebody
or what exactly. Well, he's got buckshot. This is buckshot.
Yeah.
Like, so it's he's able to save Tyler, which I think is a big thing for him.
Yeah, it is. It's a cool moment, and they're able to kind of keep going along their way. I do feel like maybe the movie's a little muddy here because like Duncan lets him go and he's like, you better pay me back.
Right.
But then at the end of the movie, when we see Duncan again, he doesn't really ever give him the opportunity to pay him back. So I'm like, what's your deal?
I don't disagree. I do think from this moment on, the movie does kind of like get a little weird in moments.
Yeah. Maybe
a touch forced at times. But I do think there are certain elements that I think for the most part it still works. You know what I mean? Like it's you kind of get to that the next scene where it's like, oh, you find out that Dakota Johnson's a widow. It's like, well, of course she's a widow. Like, of course she's single. You know what I mean?
Well, that's why I think that's funny too that she's a widow because first of all, like the name Eleanor, I've never seen anybody under 80 years old name Eleanor.
Sure.
And she's a widow, which you would also like assume an older person is. I'm like, she's like, did they mean to hire like a 70-year-old actress here? And like Dakota just stumbled onto the
70-year-old
role.
actors don't look like that. I'm just gonna say.
No,
no offense.
I'm not saying Dakota's 70.
Offense.
I'm saying did they mean to cast a 70-year-old actress?
Right.
So, but they failed and they got Dakota instead because she acts like she's 70. but yeah. Anyway, yeah. So of course she's available for Tyler and her to fall in love.
Exactly. And then, they kind of get to the point where they find out where the Saltwater Redneck lives. They go to find out the school's closed, yada, yada, yada.
It's been closed for like 10 years.
Right. The guy.
Zach's video is very old.
Thomas
he's been
Hayden
watching.
Church, who is, I quite enjoy as an actor. Gets to make I don't know if I want to call it a cameo because I feel like he's probably on it a little bit.
A little more than a cameo.
But he... they kind of pull him out of his own hole, you know what I mean?
Right.
Which is kind of cool because it's like, oh, I've got a fan. Okay, I'm going to, they at first it's like, oh, well, this is Cliff or
Clint.
And he's like, oh, so here, just say, hi to this. He's not Peter. I'm sorry, Saltwater Redneck's not here anymore, but Clint's here.
Zach
Say hi.
Zach doesn't recognize him,
right?
as Saltwater Redneck.
Without his getup. So and then they try to convince him that he's not real, but then Clint shows up in the car, like in his Trans Am or whatever,
with a little bit of face paint on,
right?
And Zach's like, hell yeah,
he's real.
Told you, he's real.
So then he gets to do the wrestling school bit, which is good, with Jake the Snake Roberts.
And good. I can't believe Jake's not dead.
I think the way he looked in this movie also doesn't believe that Jake's not dead.
He looks better in this movie than he did in '96 when we were watching Beyond the Mat or whatever.
I don't know about all that.
Definitely, you forget.
I don't know if I forgot, but yeah. So, and then obviously he gets the opportunity to kind of go to this wrestling match and fight Jake the Snake the next day, which is the height difference is hilarious.
Oh, well, yeah. And it's not a good idea. Like, everybody knows this is a bad idea except Tyler.
Right.
And Thomas Hayden Church, basically.
Right.
Eleanor doesn't want any part of this. Zach's scared out of his mind. But again, Tyler pumps him up.
Right.
He wants him to live his dream, which is cool. But, like, if my dream was to, like, jump off a mountain, then you shouldn't tell me to do that.
Sure.
But still.
I think that there is definitely
Mick Foley is there.
Mick Foley.
Probably my favorite wrestler of all time.
I was going to get there. Mick Foley is in there, which is obviously great. And, it is a shady backyard wrestling match. Because, like, this, I just think of those old videotapes we used to watch in high school and stuff of backyard wrestling. Yep. And it was just like, this is what it looked like. And it was about as safe as that.
Yeah, it didn't look good.
No, not at all. But, it was cool because, he gets to kind of fully embody the Peanut Butter Falcon and, they build him a quick costume, which obviously, like, okay, this part was hilarious to me because it's like, Zach comes out in the costume and, like, he's not over at all. Like, the crowd's like, what is he wearing? What's going on?
And horrible.
I'm just like,
he's 5'4".
You guys realize where you are? Have you looked at yourself right now?
Yeah.
Like, you're gonna laugh at that kid, or like be weirded out by that kid? What are you guys doing?
Yeah, they didn't play wrestling in this movie like it's not real. You know what I mean? So it's kind of gray area in how they played the movie.
Yeah,
like how they played wrestling.
Yeah, and I guess it makes sense because of where the Saltwater Redneck was at this point in his life and where he lived and all of that. To kind of like take it to such a more like grimy.
Yeah.
Representation of the sport, if you will.
Well, they want blood, and they don't see a cardboard falcon probably going to give them that opportunity.
Right. Maybe that's fair, but if you've got blood, you got to rub it all over your face and stuff, because apparently, like, Jake the Snake Roberts believes in vampires or something, according to the Saltwater Redneck.
Yeah.
But they get over. He gets over.
He does a great
cool.
job. Yeah. Tyler pumps up the crowd, and they get into it.
It's over. And then Samson turns out to be a real dick.
He's wrestling. Wrestling's wrestling.
Yeah, but he had a deal. Clearly, like, he supposedly had a deal or something.
To not kill
Zach. To not kill Zach, which, it's weird to me that would have to be a deal made.
But it does. And it's not being followed.
Right.
But Zach's getting the living crap beat out of him. But Tyler's like, hey, you want me to throw in the towel? Kind of Rocky-ish. And he's like, no.
But he delivers his best antagonizing line he can. You're not invited to my birthday party.
And the whole match turns because Zach is unstoppable after that.
This is where, this moment, while it is very endearing, is very silly.
Very silly.
The atomic throw is very silly.
Yeah.
The fact that Zach does the atomic throw to Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yeah. Well, a couple things with the atomic throw. Basically, it's just like an overhead press.
Yeah.
And they're acting like the move's impossible to perform, which I don't know why you would say that. Like,
right. That was literally the Ultimate Warrior's finishing.
Yeah. It's very, like, people weight lift with things above their head all the time. So it's like, why would you say it's impossible to lift someone over your head and throw them and then have Zach do it? I mean, it's obviously you don't need to say it's impossible to be like, wow, Zach's doing it. If Zach is picking up a 300-pound, 6'6" guy, you don't need the move to have been thought of as impossible to make it like a wow moment.
Sure.
So it's just weird.
Yeah.
But
like I said, maybe I found the stuff with like meeting Saltwater Redneck endearing, but I do feel like the wrestling element of it at the end did get a little like cheesy pie to the
Yeah.
point where it's a little like,
And we both like
and
professional
we're both
wrestling.
right. We're
so,
both wrestling fans.
So maybe
it's
maybe
like,
we're just, but it just was it
felt
just weird. Yeah.
It felt weird. Like, and I get it stylistically with the way the movie had been, the setting of the movie. It does make sense to kind of, like I said, go with this kind of grimy backyard wrestling kind of thing. But like I said, it felt kind of cheesy and
I kind of think like making wrestling fake, like what it really is.
Right.
Like would have been too hard to explain.
Scripted.
Yeah, it would have been too hard to like teaching Zach that part of it. Like it would take too long. You know what I mean? So they kind of have this middle of the roadish where they're like kind of pretend it's real,
right?
Just to kind of get the movie wrapped up.
Yeah. So I do think in that it does kind of stumble a little bit. And then, like you said earlier with Duncan, like Duncan shows up out of nowhere because it's like he's alerted that Tyler's there, and he shows up and hits him over the head with a tire iron
as the atomic throws
happening.
Yeah.
So I am kind of like, okay, you let him go earlier. Why come back now?
I thought you wanted him to pay you back,
right?
Yeah.
So
don't you want a chance at your $12,000 back? Because and Tyler's fully planning on paying him back.
Right. Yeah. Like he even says like he wants when he's talking to Eleanor before the match, like, oh, what are you going to do after? As the conversation was obviously going to get to at some point. What are you doing after this? Like, well, I'm gonna try to pay back my debts, but I'm gonna go to Florida to do it.
Yeah, Jupiter.
Right, Jupiter, Florida.
Get a charter.
Right,
run a charter boat.
And she's like,
I've never been to Jupiter.
Do you want to go to Florida? Like, I'm just gonna tell you right now. If that's a pickup line, if that's the pickup line, do you want to go to Florida? The answer is no. The answer is always no. You do not want to go. Do not follow a person to Florida.
There's not good intentions.
Take it from us. We know.
Yeah, it's true.
Don't go to Florida.
But so Tyler lives, though. He does get hit in the head with a tire iron. There's a couple, they kind of leave you in suspense a little bit at the hospital.
Yeah. Which, I mean, it's good. It's fine. Like, with that kind of thing, you're like, oh, man, like, what happened? Like, but I'm just like, man, if he have Tyler die at this point of the movie, I'm just going to be real upset.
So funny thing is, the studio told them they wanted a shot where Tyler, like, you don't see Tyler in the back seat.
Right.
Like, you don't hear from him. Like, it's ambiguous if he's alive or not. Like, the studio wanted you to think he was dead. And the director's like, no, we're not ending the movie like that. Like, Tyler, we're going to see Tyler at the end of this movie.
That's so weird. That seems like the anti-studio thing. It seems like it would be reversed, that the studio's like, we want the happy ending. And the director's like, no, man, it's got to be dark. I'm talking Lars Van Trier. There are no more happy endings.
Yeah, that's basically.
That's so weird.
But I can't remember if I read that they actually tested a scene with him not there, and people are like, no.
Well, they hit it. I mean, they hit it well. You know what I mean? When he's in the backseat, they hit it well. So you didn't necessarily know, but I just had a feeling. I'm like, I bet he's back there, because I'm like,
and I don't think you would have left the movie on, like, it wouldn't have felt right if you didn't know. Like, if they didn't tell you one way or the other, I think it would even be worse than if you said he was dead.
Yeah.
But, I mean, just he's alive. He's fine.
Yeah. I mean,
he's not fine, but he's alive.
Yeah. I think. The Tyler character, I think as far as his overall arc, weakness and need and all of that, like, I ultimately feel like he fulfills that relatively early in the story.
Yeah.
So, like, by the time he gets to that, last act, it is much more about Zach and fulfilling Zach's goals.
Yeah.
And I think that's fine. So I think, but if you got to that point where at the end Tyler just died, it still would have felt weird, though. Even though his arc more or less was over.
Yeah.
I do feel like it would have felt very weird. It almost felt to me it would have felt almost just intentional, like you just wanted to, like, stab the audience in the gut.
Just like because, obviously there is a movie trope of, once you get everything you want, you get it all taken away.
Sure.
And that's kind of been what
gems.
Tyler's death would have been exactly. But yeah, I just don't think that would have been appropriate for this movie, tonally and stuff. So I'm glad we get to see Tyler in the back seat. I think that's the way the movie should end. But
definitely.
But this conversation shouldn't end talking about Tyler. This conversation needs to end with you answering the question that we end every Say Hello podcast with. Rob, did you like this movie, and would you recommend it?
Oh boy, we're here already, huh?
I think so.
Oh, gee, we've had a conversation here.
Yeah.
We've talked a lot about this movie, and I'm sure the listeners at home are on the edge of their seats,
Of course.
listening to me talk about a lot of these scenes and a lot of these lines, and really wondering deep down, did I like this
Did you care
movie?
for this at all?
And Ray, I'm gonna have to be real honest with you. Yeah, I love this movie. I thought it was great. I thought Tyler and Zach's relationship was so good,
Yeah.
so compelling, and yeah, it is. I will say this was probably like a little tappy in for you because like
Yeah.
I think this was
a
a movie.
softball.
This was a softball. This movie was really great. I think it's simple. It's good. It feels like I said earlier, Huckleberry Finn, a little Mark
Yeah.
Twainish, which I think is great. It has that kind of American fiction element to it that I think really works well. I think they get their relationship up and running quickly, and I think Zach is just he's a really compelling character.
Yeah. You can tell why when they met Zach in real life, why they wanted to make a movie for him.
Yeah, I mean, it worked. It worked on pretty much every level. Like I said, I think I liked Dakota Johnson in it. I liked Bruce Dern for the 5 seconds
Yeah.
he's in it. But man, it's a great 5 seconds, and highly recommend Peanut Butter Falcon. I would definitely recommend it to somebody else. I can already think of somebody right off the top of my head that as soon as this is over, I'm going to go recommend it to right now.
Great.
So. Well, obviously, I loved Peanut Butter Falcon. I know you loved Peanut Butter Falcon, but I want to know, Ray, have you been watching anything else lately that you've loved?
I've been watching a ton of stuff.
Oh,
But I haven't finished a ton of stuff.
Ugh.
So I don't have too much to talk about. One thing I did finish, thank you, whoever helped me finish this, was I finished Cobra Kai.
oh, I'm in the second part of the last season. However, they're releasing that at this
You're
point.
like on
How many
episode
parts?
10.
Right? Yeah, or episode 9 or 10. Yeah, it's ridiculous how many parts they're breaking that last season into, and it is a bit of a slog.
And the middle was horrible, if you
Yeah.
ask me.
I'm with you.
I will say these last 5 are an improvement.
Oh, good.
But I don't think it like.
I was on the fence about the last 5. If I was
Watch
even
the
going to do
last
it,
5.
but
I
now
think
you did it,
I think
yeah.
you'll have a little bit better taste in your mouth about the series.
Okay.
Kind of remind you about some of the stuff that when the show was good.
Sure.
It's some of that stuff comes back around. Some of the stuff that I hated in these middle 2 sections or those middle
Yeah.
episodes, they do like wrap up in a way where I'm like, okay, I mean, I guess I like this, but like you showed me 5 bad episodes, and in 2 lines of dialogue, you told me like what it was all about. Like
Sure.
that's like there was like 5 bad episodes for 2 sentences, like 2 spoken words of like wrapping up and making it make sense, with just some like head nods and like eyes realizing what was going on, like moments. I was like, okay, that was a bit much, but anyway. But overall, like I really liked parts of the show early on.
Sure, I
a
did
couple
too.
of those seasons.
Well, and every time Johnny and Daniel are on screen together, it's still magic.
Yeah,
For the most part,
when
even
it's
in the
just-
bad
when
episodes,
it's just
them.
them.
It's magic.
yeah. They just got to wait. The cast got probably way too big.
It will definitely in those middle 5 episodes in the last season. Yeah, why are you either bringing people back, because they brought Silver back, and then like adding this other team. I mean, it was just so many characters in those middle 5 episodes.
Not good. But I will tell anybody, if you somehow watch those middle episodes of the final season and you want to quit, don't just watch the last 5. It'll redeem it a hair. Let it, like I said, kind of be a bit of a palate cleanser and let you think a little bit more fondly on the show. But yeah, definitely stuck around too long. But I did finish it. It was a goal that I'm glad I accomplished.
Well, fair enough.
Now, what about you? I know you said you've been picking at Cobra Kai. What else you been watching?
Yep. So I've been picking at Cobra Kai, which is good because I like Peyton List. There's a lot of people in Cobra Kai and Peyton List is one of them. I don't necessarily love her as Tori right now in this season. I feel like they've kind of done some weird stuff with her. But another show that she's in that she is really good in is School Spirits.
I think you've talked about School Spirits before.
Season 1. Now I watched season 2, and I enjoyed it. I wasn't sure there'd be a 3rd season, but they figured out a way to make it happen. I'm still not 100% sure it's going to be. They've got the runway, but we'll see. But she is really great in it. So it's a great
Good
kind
for
of
her.
like juxtaposition, to Cobra Kai, where I feel like they've kind of let her languish a little bit in the Tori character. I think her character in School Spirits is hand over fist better. And I think I'm interested to see what they do in a third season. We finished the second season of Based on a True Story, which is, I love Kaylee Cuoco. Obviously she's in Harley, the voice of Harley Quinn
watching
and
her in
stuff
Harley
like
Quinn
that.
right now.
Exactly, me too. And I think she's really great. Chris Messina is great in it as well. I'm interested to see what they do in a third season. They've really kind of shaken up the dynamics a little bit between like the main characters, so I think that helps, and they might be shaking it up in an interesting way. But it was one that I'm like, is there going to be a third season? Is there not? And there's definitely going to be. And then I did watch a movie, and that is Heretic with Hugh Grant.
Oh yes, I think I saw the trailer.
Yeah, A24 horror film starring Hugh Grant and Sophie Thatcher from Yellow Jackets, who I really enjoy. She's great in Yellow Jackets, and she's also really good in Heretic. But as good as she is, no offense to her, Hugh Grant steals the show.
Does he?
I mean, for a guy that you just, commonly think of as kind of this, like, befuddled Englishman, the character that he's well known for the decades, he really plays against type. He plays this creepy guy who kind of entraps these two Mormon outreach missionaries in his house and kind of confront them about faith and the meaning of faith and things like that. And it is very interesting. I will say I don't know if I necessarily feel like it stuck the landing. I will say, but I definitely recommend it. Give it a watch because there's some some philosophical questions that I think are super interesting in it. But how do I put this lightly? As a non-believer in organized religion, there are definitely parts about the movie that I appreciate, but then there are some parts that I'm like, how are you trying to frame me as a non-believer? You know what I mean?
Sure.
So like, I can see why some people might, kind of get their feathers ruffled by it in that regard. But it's an interesting movie. I'll put it that way. You should definitely check it out.
All right, everybody. Well, we have wrapped up today's conversation concerning Peanut Butter Falcon. And you know what would make us want to invite you to our birthday parties?
Oh, boy.
If you guys liked this podcast, if you subscribe to the podcast, and if you review the podcast and give us a 5-star review, we will read that live on air.
And invite you to every birthday party we ever have for the rest of our
We'll
lives.
consider giving you our birthday wishes if you email us and or if you talk to us or follow us on Blue Sky at CarRayRob, or email us at carrayrob@gmail.com.
Absolutely. If there is a comment section on whatever platform you're on, by all means, leave us a comment. Let us know what you thought of Peanut Butter Falcon. You know what? Let us know who your favorite professional wrestler is.
Sure.
That would actually be really cool to know. Also, any other movies that Ray and I should check out. We are always looking for something new to watch. We will be back next week with this month's episode of Hello Movies, My Old Friend.
I'm really excited about it.
Yeah, we will be revisiting the classic Steve Martin comedy, Leap of Faith.
Can't wait.
Exactly. I have not seen that movie in a thick minute, as my kid would say. Until then, though, this is Car Ray Rob.
Where I'm Ray.
And I'm Rob. And remember, be defined by the films you love, not the ones you hate.
Hey there, it'll be just a little while till Ray and Rob spit their spittle. Come on, check out of the hospital. So grab some